Welcome to the big story. I'm Gretchen Hall.
I'm Aracel Halili.
And I'm Pauline Berzosa.
Tonight's big stories. President Marcos and select cabinet secretaries are not yet done reviewing the 2025 national budget as they wanted to, quote, conform to the Constitution.
The Agriculture Department is projecting cheaper rice at the start of the next year, with cuts between 5 and 7 pesos per kilo. We speak to the farmers or to a farmers group to check if this is possible and sustainable.
And MMFF entry, The Kingdom, is earning raves and great reviews only 2 days into its showing. It's even a trending topic on social media platforms.
We begin with the 2025 national budget that is still being reviewed but is already expected to be signed come December 30. According to the palace, President Bongbong Marcos and the cabinet are still scrutinizing the proposed 6.352 trillion pesos spending bill approved by Congress. Malacanang did not directly address concerns of Senator Amy Marcos about the General Appropriations Act or the GAA.
Now, among other things, the president's eldest sister wants the budget for public works reduced by at least 188 billion pesos to make the GAA lawful. She also criticized the restoration of funding for the Ayuda sa Kapos sa Kita program, or AKAP, and the 12 billion peso cut from the DepEd budget. Senator Marcos said she is more open to a reenacted budget than a fresh, yet, quote, very, very bad funding measure.
But Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin says PBBM and the cabinet are thoroughly reviewing items in the GAA, even without the calls to do so. Bersamin adds that they are making sure these provisions conform to the Constitution and will prioritize the legacy thrusts of the administration. Diaz assures that President Marcos is practicing prudence when it comes to programming and spending of the country's limited fiscal resources.
Let's get the insights of our first guest tonight on this issue and other political matters. We have with us on the big story Teddy Casino, former Bayan Muna representative and now running for senator in the 2025 elections. Welcome to the big story.
Thank you, and good evening, ladies. Good evening to everyone who's watching.
Well, Teddy, it is December 26. We have 4 days till the president plans to sign the GAA on December 30 on Rizal Day. They say they are thoroughly reviewing this, but what are the options by the president, knowing that a reenacted budget is not part of those options because of the coming election year, meaning hindi natin maibabalik yung budget ng nakaraang taon sa susunod na taon. What can you see here? What can you see the president doing to make this constitutional and to correct what he says he wants to correct? Like, for example, in the education department, as well as the actually, hindi ko sigurado kung ibabalik niya yung sa sa PhilHealth eh. Pero anong nakikita mong options? Parang hindi pala.
Well, you know, the president can veto certain items in the budget, but I don't think he has the power to realign funds at this point because that has already been finalized by both houses of Congress. So the president can either sign the GAA as is, or he can just veto certain line items. But he cannot, like, you know, restore the budget of PhilHealth or restore the 12 billion taken out from the DepEd. That will have to be through a supplemental budget to be passed by Congress in 2025. So there's actually a very limited thing that the president can do. Either he signs it en toto, or he just vetoes certain line items, but he cannot, you know, juggle funds. And then he will have to rely on supplemental budgets to be passed by Congress for next year. The other option is, of course, a reenacted budget. That means he will veto the entire GAA. So I think that that's even more problematic.
Why? Why is it even more problematic?
Well, basically, one, it's never been done. You know, na-reenact ang budget pag hindi naggagawa ng Kongreso yung kanilang trabaho. But this time they actually completed the work, and it's just up for the president's signature. So there might be some legal or constitutional issues. Secondly, that gives a blanket, it's basically a blanket authority for the president to juggle funds, because a reenacted budget is supposed to be for last year. So since hindi na pwede yon kasi nagastos na yun ng last year, this gives the president the leeway to really realign funds left and right for the coming year. And as far as governance is concerned, transparency and accountability, that's more dangerous, because you will never know in a reenacted budget how much goes to which departments. And it will be up to the president to decide.
So what do you think is the best option among these things that you enumerated?
I think he can probably veto line items, like, remove the ACAP, probably remove certain amounts from certain departments, and then push Congress in the next year to come up with a supplemental budget, in effect realigning the budgets that he vetoed to, for example, back to DepEd or back to PhilHealth, etc., or back to the National Irrigation Authority or to the DOLE or DSWD. But that will require a lot of work and coordination between the executive and the legislative. Coordination which should have been done during the deliberations of the 2024 Congress. Ang problema kasi dito sa BICAM, nagkayarian eh. And I think in the BICAM, the president probably had little influence over it, because it was really horse trading among the senators and the congressmen by that time.
Well, sabi nung nakausap namin dito si Kenneth Abante of the Citizens Budget Tracker, that's still the best option, ibalik sa BICAM. Pero ang sabi niya, sana matapos na by this window, this year. Kasi kung next year, medyo madidelay lahat. You don't think that's a good option? Bring it
I
back
don't
to
think
BICAM?
it's a realistic option ibalik sa BICAM, kasi we just have a few days. And if the BICAM doesn't finish their job by December 31, that's that. And then, hindi lang simpleng i-resume mo yung BICAM. Whatever the BICAM does has to be ratified by both houses of Congress. And naka-recess na sila eh. And I don't think they will, go all the way back to Manila on December 31 just to approve
This has to be-
the new yeah.
A budget has to be passed before the year ends. Am I correct? Is
Yes.
that what is written in the
Yes.
Constitution? Okay.
Otherwise, it gets reenacted. Pero hindi reenacted kasi actually nagawa ng Congress yung trabaho niya eh. It's now with the president. So medyo difficult difficult situation. If they did that probably before Christmas, they would have had time. We pushed for that. Bago nag-recess ang Congress, tinulak ko namin sa Makabayan bloc na i-resume yung BICAM and then iparatify uli sa Congress. But this proposal was not acted upon by both houses of Congress.
Okay, well, Teddy, let's talk about the DPWH getting the lion's share of next year's budget with almost 289 billion peso increase for the DPWH. But the president's eldest sister, si Senator Amy Marcos, did say she's actually pushing to have it reduced by at least 188 billion pesos. What do you make of that? Is that actually possible? Kasi alam naman natin, even the education sector under the Constitution is supposed to get the biggest chunk of the budget.
Yes, there's a constitutional issue there. So the problem is that hindi malinaw sa atin saan ba mapupunta yung dagdag na budget sa DPWH. But I think just to make the budget constitutionally compliant, what President Marcos can do is veto certain items in the DPWH budget to make it number 2 compared to the DepEd budget or to the education sector budget. At malamang, ang pwede mo tanggalin talaga dyan yung dinagdag ng BICAM because, the practice is that the items added in the DPWH infrastructure program during the BICAM are the insertions of both the congressmen and the senators. But yun nga, walang transparency dyan eh. Hindi natin alam anong particular projects ang pinag-uusapan natin dyan. And it's such a huge amount.
I wonder what will happen kung nakalusot itong proposed national budget as it is, na merong mga questions about its constitutionality. What will happen kung pinirmahan to? I mean, who will be held liable?
Well, there will most likely be a constitutional challenge, at least doon sa point ng education sector getting the number one priority in the budget. Who will be liable? Well, it will be Congress and the President if he signs it. And the question is, if that is deemed as unconstitutional, do we revert back to the 2024 budget? That's unprecedented. Wala pa kasing budget na naki-question for constitutionality eh. So this will be a precedent setting if ever.
Well, another yung sa education kasi the president seems determined to reallocate or make sure na medyo mas malaki yung educational sector budget than the DPWH. Mukhang yun ang kanilang i-address. But itong
Yes,
PhilHealth...
but he cannot add eh. All he can
pala.
do is veto.
Oh, veto.
He
Babawas lang
cannot
sa
add or realign
DPWH.
anymore. So, babawasan niya siguro yung DPWH budget. That would be a more logical...
Pero itong sa PhilHealth na zero subsidy, we spoke with DOH ASEC Albert Domingo and he says this is their way of quote-unquote medyo dinidisiplina nila yung PhilHealth na gumastos more efficiently to be able to provide services and not act like a pension fund. They're questioning why they're holding on to so much reserve when it's pay-as-you-go type of insurance. Hindi siya yung kumbaga parang pag ikaw ay pumanaw, mayroon kang i-collect na malaking amount. What do you think about that take of the DOH and the way they're handling this? And also the conflicts against the universal healthcare law and the syntax law.
I tend to agree that the reserve fund is too big. But the solution there is not to defund PhilHealth, but for PhilHealth to actually use the reserve fund for benefits of its members. Kasi ang liit-liit naman ang nakukuha ng members eh. In fact, almost half of the expenses of PhilHealth members are out-of-pocket expenses when they go to hospitals. So, totoo yan. Talagang masyadong malaki yung reserve at dapat nga nasi-zero yan every year. But the solution is not to defund, but for PhilHealth to use it. Because yung subsidy kasi ng gobyerno, that's for the PhilHealth premiums of the senior citizens and the indigent members. So pag yan tinanggal, talagang mamomroblema sa pondo ang PhilHealth. And it cannot possibly give additional benefits. Kasi yun nga eh, importante yung nagbabayad ng premium, yung mga paid subsidized members of PhilHealth. But I agree. In fact, I think dapat masizero yan every start of the year. Ibig sabihin, nagastos talaga ng PhilHealth lahat ng funds para sa benefits ng kanyang miyembro.
Okay. On Monday, maaga yung call time natin sa Malacanang to witness the signing of the proposed national budget. Ano yung inaasahan natin na magiging itsura nito after a thorough review of President Bongbong Marcos and his economic team?
Ako po, I expect that the President will veto certain items in the DPWH and the unprogrammed funds. And, well, sana yung pati yung sa Congress and sa yung 18 billion na dinagdag din sa Congress at sa Senate. Because these are the traditional pork barrel allocations. Diyan nilalagay yan eh. So, if the President can veto that and then make a promise to push for supplemental budgets for the Department of Agriculture, for the DSWD, for the Department of Education, and for CHED, of course, also for DOH, and then commit that he will really push for that in the first half of the year, that could probably be an acceptable solution. But signing the budget as it is now, approved by the BICAM and ratified by both houses, I think it would be politically disastrous for him, and policy-wise, it would be really, really bad for the country.
Let's move on to other issues in politics. Your group filed the second impeachment complaint against the vice president. And yesterday we had a news item saying that it's possible that the father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, will represent the vice president in court as one of her lawyers in her legal panel. Your reaction to that? The father defending the daughter.
You know, that's political theater. It's we saw how former President Duterte acted when he faced the Senate and he faced the House. You know, it was entertaining. It was political theater. So the problem here is that impeachment is really a serious mechanism for accountability. And for the Dutertes to turn that into political theater and an opportunity for them to grandstand and to agitate their adherents, I think it will defeat the purpose of the impeachment process. Of course, Vice President Duterte has all the right to choose her lawyer, but nakikinikinita ko na ano magiging itsura niyan. There will be a lot of cussing, there will be a lot of drama, at baka malihis, no? Baka ma-divert ang ating attention dun sa totoong usapin sa impeachment, which is the misuse of 612.5 million in confidential funds and other charges against the Vice President.
Pero sa mga hearings, nakikita natin hindi pinagpagsalita yung legal counsel, ano? Kailangan yung resource person talaga yung magsasalita. Pagdating naman sa mga impeachment hearings, how does it work?
Well,
Pwedeng legal?
it's a trial. In the Senate, it will be a trial. And the lawyers will have a role to play. Parang korte yan eh. So the lawyers will be speaking. And the accused, unless she testifies, is the one who is just sitting there silent. It will be the lawyers who will be fighting for her. So malaki ang magiging papel ni President Duterte, former President Duterte dyan, if ever.
But what's your plan?
And I think he will enjoy it. I mean, you know, he loves all the drama and the attention.
He was able to take, I think, control of the room in the Senate. No? Medyo nakita mo
Yes,
talagang
precisely.
nag-defer sa kanya.
He's going to intimidate everyone there. He's going to threaten. He's going to cuss. He's going to, do everything. Pasikat Duterte style, and that will divert the issue from the serious charges that the daughter is facing.
But what's your plan come January? Kasi very limited yung time. Mag-start na rin yung campaign period in just a few weeks pag nag-start na yung 2025. Of course, tatlo pa yung impeachment cases against Vice President Sara Duterte. I don't know if those three will be consolidated. Paano mag-work yun?
I think the best case scenario is that the three complaints are consolidated, and then they get the required 1/3 votes, and then before Congress goes on recess by February, maipadala na sa Senado ito, having garnered the 1/3 votes or 106 signatures of the congressmen, and the Senate can probably, again, best case scenario, the Senate can create the impeachment court and then get permission to hold sessions even during the campaign period. But as I said, it's a best case scenario, not likely. Most likely, the Senate will, if the House musters the 1/3 vote, the Senate will probably start hearings on this after the elections, when Senate when session resumes in June. And then siguro ipapasa yan hanggang sa next Congress, where there will be 12 new senators. Of course, this has never happened before, so there will be a lot of novel questions and procedures to happen. Pero yon, tingin ko medyo mahihirapan na rin ang Senado to make the decision before the elections. But as far as the House is concerned, I think even before they go on recess by February, they can decide on this already.
Well, Teddy, looking ahead to the 2025 midterm elections, the Makabayan bloc is actually fielding its biggest slate yet since the 1980s. What do you make of the recent senatorial surveys where a lot of familiar names nationally emerge as frontrunners? Meaning, on your end, how do you plan on having your senatorial bets become more conscious in the minds of voters?
Well, having an 11-person slate is itself a big leap already. So we hope to be that third alternative, because the administration slate is, of course, the pro-Marcos slate. Then the Dutertes are presenting themselves as the new opposition. And then there is no traditional opposition. The Liberal Party has only one candidate. So we're hoping that the Makabayan slate becomes the people's opposition. And we will be harping on that this campaign period. The campaign hasn't started. And so these surveys are what we call pre-campaign surveys. Hopefully when we start with the campaign and we really go around the country and come up with our campaign materials, then we can project ourselves as the third alternative to the Marcos administration and the so-called Duterte opposition. And that will probably, give our candidates more recognition and more attention by the public.
What machinery do you think would be your advantage here? Taking a look at the recent Pulse Asia survey, nasa parang 29 po kayo, 26 to 37, yung rank and awareness of 29. What kind of work do you have to do in the coming months to be able to climb up the survey rankings?
The surveys are really affected by ads, whether TV ads, radio ads, or social media ads. And unfortunately, that requires millions, even billions of pesos, and that's something that we do not have. So we will really have to rely on the ground campaign, on our volunteers, on organizations that we have. That's why our slate is composed of leaders from the various sectoral organizations, and we hope to tap into the machineries and the energies of these people's organizations. And hopefully, pag kumasa yan, we hopefully have the same reach as traditional media. But we will do it on the ground. It's a very challenging strategy, and we hope that it works out for these elections.
It's probably going to be a bit of a climb, though, because looking at
It will
the
be.
top 13 or top 15, mga big political dynasties na nakikita natin, yung mga pangalan na nakapasok nga ng number 8, si Willie Revillame, siya yung independent dito, but we see the traditional names, Cayetano, Tulfo, Soto, Marcos, Binay. It is a competitive senatorial race.
Masikip.
Oo. So being pragmatic about it, it's going to take a lot of work. Or probably, sabi nga ni Ronald Llamas kahapon, a disruption. Yung progressive side will have to play a little bit into populist moves para kahit pa paano maka-disrupt dito nga sa politika sa Pilipinas.
Well, there's that, of course, but there's also, we also sense that the people are starting to get tired of the same kind of politicians mga traditional political dynasties, mga artista whose only qualification is their fame. And as when the debate starts, when the discussion starts about platforms and programs, we expect people to see that these people are offering the same things, and that's why we will have to be not only in terms of tactics but also in terms of platforms. We will really have to distinguish ourselves as a radical alternative, and I think people are looking for that, because na-try na nila yung Marcos, ilang beses na na yung Duterte. Baka naman maghanap na sila ng bago.
Right, and that is the hope that we are clinging to here in the Philippines.
That
Thank you
is
so
the
much
hope.
for joining us tonight. We have senatorial aspirant and former Bayan Muna Representative Teddy Casino.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but up next, will the Department of Agriculture's projection of lower rice prices this coming January happen? We'll discuss this with the Federation of Free Farmers when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. The Agriculture Department is seeing cheaper rice at the start of 2025. Depending on the variant, the staple at the moment sells for 45 to 56 pesos a kilo. The DA projects the full effect of reduced import tariffs on rice to kick in by January of next year, which could cut prices by as much as 7 pesos a kilo. Last July, tariffs were lowered to 15% from 35%. On December 9, the government also amended the Agricultural Tarification Act that extends the Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund until 2031. This initiative aims to fund mechanization and seed production, among others, to improve rice production.
Joining the big story now is Leonardo Montemayor, chairman of the Federation of Free Farmers. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies. And belated Christmas greetings also to you and to our audience.
Merry Christmas! Pero sir, pag-usapan natin to kung magiging merry pa rin pagdating ng 2025. Yung presyo ng bigas, sabi ng Department of Agriculture, pwedeng bumaba yung presyo come 2025. Is this possible? Gaano kalaki yung nakikita ninyong pagbaba ng presyo?
Ang reaction ko po dyan parang, there was a popular song not too long ago. Ang pamagat po niyan ay Lumang Tugtugin. So, this whole episode since Executive Order 62 took effect in July of 2024 reminds me very much of that song because, we were promised as early as last August, that prices would start to go down and by as much as 5 or 6 pesos per kilo because of the reduced tariffs or taxes on imported rice. August came, ganun pa rin po, mahal pa rin po yung bigas, 50 pesos pataas sa palengke. And then sabi nila, October, bababa po yan. October came and went. Now we are now in December. Even before that, we were being told, oh, don't worry, January or first quarter of 2025, bababa po ang presyo ng bigas. So masyado po namang elastic yung mga assurances. And I see no end in sight dito sa sistema po o regime ng mahal po, unaffordable prices for rice for the ordinary consumer.
Pero sabi po ay, dahil may stock pa, kumbaga na import na stock na ilang buwan, yung full effect niya talagang mararamdaman ng January pa. Pag naubos na yung stock na yun, at syempre January will be the new price with 15% tariff. Hindi po malaki yung 20% na ibinaba ng taripa o what is happening here? Bakit hindi po magkakaapekto yan sa presyo?
Yeah, actually, it's remember this year kasi ladies, we are seeing a record import volume for hindi lang po sa buong mundo kung hindi dito po sa Pilipinas. Right now ang pumasok na po na imported rice ay mahigit 1 milyong tonelada po yung pong quantity ng imported rice na pumasok in 2024 compared po sa 2023. Tapos at the same time, remember na binabaan po yung taripa o yung buwis na binabayaran po ng mga importer by 5 to 6 pesos per kilo. So yung pong kombinasyon ng record quantity of imported rice, meaning supply, plus the significant decrease po, pagbawas po sa binabayaran pong buwis sa imported na bigas, that should by now have already combined to really bring down the prices of rice by below the levels of 50. Ang nakikita lang naman po kasi natin ngayon na less than 50 pesos per kilo rice, dyan po sa mga kadiwa stores. Pero yan po the stores in terms of number are very few and far between. Kukunti lang po yung Makadiwa stores. And a lot of them are concentrated in the Metro Manila area. So nagrereklamo din po yung mga consumer natin outside Metro Manila, bakit sila po parang nahuhuli po sa mga pagbibigay po ng Makadiwa stores?
Okay, sir. Well, balikan po natin na yung pag-reduce ng tariffs. Actually, marami pong farmers na nag-express ng concern na yung mga savings daw ay hindi po napupunta sa kanila. In fact, back in September, you reported that you had reason to believe that traders have been pocketing almost 5 billion pesos worth of savings from the tariff cut. Sir, can you give us more context into what is causing this situation? And are there enough safeguards to prevent traders nga from taking advantage of these savings?
Opo, sa katunayan, napakalaki na po yung nalikom ng ating mga importers in terms of savings. Kasi remember, that 20% cut in their in their tariff payments corresponds by now to more than 13 billion pesos over the last one lang, less than 5 months. So the question is, why aren't the consumers feeling any, benefit in terms of napababa sana yung presyo po ng bigas sa palengke? So, the most na sinasabi po ng ating pamahalaan through the Philippine Statistics Authority ay nabawasan po ng 40 centimos yung retail price ng bigas na napupunta po sa ating consumer. And I may also add that 13 billion pesos na nawala po sa collection po ng Bureau of Customs dahil napunta po sa savings ng mga importers, that should have been used sana para sa mga productivity enhancement measures para sa ating mga magsasaka. Hindi po eh. So it's only one very, very small sector in our economy that's benefiting from these tariff reductions. And namely, ito po yung mga importers and to some extent, I suppose, mga wholesalers po natin all the way to the retail level. So ang problema po nakikita po namin dito po sa supply chain. Mula po sa importer, na sila po ay nakalikom na ng mahigit 13 bilyong piso in terms of tax payments. Tapos pagpasa po nila ng bigas sa wholesaler, tapos all the way to the retailer, ang laki po ng margin. From the, if I remember correctly, from the price of the rice that arrives in the Philippines, including the lower tax, ang diferensya po ay at least 12 pesos per kilo ang patong. So yan po ang malaking tanong, bakit hindi po magawan ng ating pamahalaan na ayusin itong mga itong sigarot
Ito
na
nga
ito.
po, sinasabi ni DA Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel that they have plans to remove brand labels from imported rice, citing that some industry players are manipulating the system to inflate prices and exploit consumers. Sabi nila na intentionally confused daw yung mga Filipino consumers with branded imports to justify the high prices of rice. Do you think that will help? Tatanggalin yung mga brands dun sa mga imported?
Maybe makatulong ng konti po yan, pero the point remains that ang laki ng pumasok na imported rice sa ating bansa. So yung pong basic economics po yan, napakalaki pa yung dagdag sa supply, over 1 million tons compared to last year. The demand is basically the same, if not lower, because hirap po yung ating mamayan po in terms of purchasing power. So ang question, supply has increased tremendously, demand is the same, if not a bit lower, and therefore the prices of rice should be much, much lower. So bakit hindi po yan pong asikasuhin? Where are the government agencies aside from the DA? You have the Philippine Competition Commission, PCC, you have the DTI, and then we already have some new laws. We have this new law about 2 months back, increasing the penalties for agricultural smuggling, profiteering, cartels, and so on. Very heavy po ang penalties po niyan, life imprisonment, at saka very, very big fines. So, bakit hindi po, ginagamit lahat dito pong mga institusyon na ito at mga bagong batas para to make sure that our traders and our importers behave properly.
Sir, may impact pa rin po ba yung mga sunod-sunod na bagyo sa
bansa and on the local farmers. If we remember, noong October and November, di ba may 6 pa nga po na sunod-sunod yun. Do you see that increasing the cost of production for local farmers?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. In fact, DINEDA itself has already answered it because in a recent hearing in the Quinta Committee in the House of Representatives, one of the DINEDA directors himself admitted that because of Executive Order number 62, ay nagkaroon po ng masamang epekto po sa ating rice producers dahil pinabagsak daw po yung presyo ng palay na tinatanggap ng ating magsasaka sa kanilang bukid by close to 17%. Ang laki pong pagbawas yan. Dahil siyempre, because of EO 62, more imports came in. The imports will tend to lower really the price of palay at which the buyers get the palay from the farmers. So ang sakit po ng tama sa farmers natin. Nabanggit ko po kanina, hindi lang po nawalan po ng 13 billion pesos in terms of productivity enhancement support for our farmers under the rice tarification law, but EO 62 also contributed hugely to the tremendous reduction in the price of palay by about 17%. So ang laki po ng kumbaga disincentive, nakakadismaya po sa ating mga magsasaka na sa harapan po ng mas lumaki po na production cost nila, lalo na po sa fertilizer and of course labor costs, ay sabay-sabay po naman pong hindi nabibigyan po ng remedyo gawa po nitong Executive Order number 62.
Sir, are you saying that we don't still have in place an effective a mechanism to determine how much imports we should make if you're saying that we have too much imported rice?
Yeah. Well, we have a new law now which amended the rice tarification law. I think it gives the President and also the Department of Agriculture much greater powers, shall I say, or leverage to try to address this imbalance between supply, demand, and the prices. So, dito po sa bagong batas, pag nakikita po ng ating Pangulo na sobra-sobra po yung pumapasok na bigas from abroad, na masyado po namang natatamaan ating mga magsasaka, he can now impose for a limited period an outright ban on additional imports. Or he can apply, increased tariff rates in order to discourage, if not suspend, additional imports for a certain period. And then also the new law allows the Department of Agriculture in cases of declared, emergencies such as extraordinary increases in the price of rice to be able to use the buffer stocks in the National Food Authority and sell these stocks to the general public. So there are now additional, shall we say, powers that have been given, but it remains to be seen how effectively will government be able to use this to protect our consuming public.
Richard, malayo pa tayo sa 20 pesos kada kilo.
Napakalayo pa, 38 pa lang yung target ng DA next year. But we still hope and pray that we'll have more affordable rice come 2025. Thank you for joining us, Leonardo Montemayor, Chairman of the Federation of Free Farmers.
Wala pong anuman. Salamat din po.
6 days before we welcome the new year, but there are already 69 firecracker-related injuries recorded in the country. That's already more than a dozen compared to last year's record during the same time period. Just today, there were 26 new victims, according to the Department of Health. Most of them used illegal fireworks such as boga. At East Avenue Medical Center in Quezon City, 4 had to be hospitalized on Christmas Eve due to fireworks-related injuries. That's why the DOH again reminds the public to use alternative and safer noise sources instead.
And the first day of the Metro Manila Film Festival yesterday saw The Kingdom trending on social media platforms in the country. Now, some moviegoers rated the movie a perfect 5 in terms of the story. Many described it as intriguing, beautifully written, and well executed. To quote a commenter, first 5 minutes of the film, nakakakilabot agad. Others praised Bossing Vic Soto in his first serious role. as well as his co-star, Piolo Pascual, of course, and even those who had brief roles such as Cedric Juan and Isa Calzado. As viewers described it, sulit talaga ang bayad para manood ng movie. And because tickets for The Kingdom quickly sold out during the first day of the MMFF, you now have a way to skip the lines by booking online. You can reserve your tickets now via the SM Cinema app or on sureseats.com for Ayala Malls, robinsonsmovieworld.com, vistacinemas.com.ph, or gatewaycineplex18.com. So let's continue to support the Kingdom and the Metro Manila Film Festival. We were just talking about that. Si Gretchen nahaba daw ng last screening.
habol
Yun
sa
yung hinahanap ko
Kingdom.
kagabi.
Yes.
Anong 25? Yung ano ba yung hacks?
Yung mga
para tayo
theaters.
makakapanood.
Oo.
So palipasin mo muna yung unang dalawang
Yes.
araw. Tapos pwede na today.
Pwede.
Kasi
Online, book
pwede
na
na.
online.
sa Rockwell meron. Meron pang
Yan.
9:45.
Makakahabol pa, The Kingdom.
Mukhang
Diretso ka na doon.
nakasabayan nila ako. Mauuna ako sa inyo.
Mas malapit ka.
Ako bukas na lang, weekend. All right, and on that note, that's the big story for us tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and have a good night. Meanwhile, stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andrew Felix and Cheska Liton Calao. Tapos na yung game ha, pwede na rin kayo manood ng The
Habol
Kingdom.
na.
Yan. Gusto ko nga panoorin, sabi ko sa kanya, I really wanna watch The Kingdom. Gusto ko mapanood niyo si Bossing, si Papa P. As in, it's really something na if you think about the plot, what could have happened to the Philippines, diba? It's a very nice, kumbaga, nice plot to a movie. Interesting. O ba't tayo may kayong tatlo?
Teka lang. Hindi, kasi
Excited na kami
iniisip ko kung ano, hindi
Makakahabol sa akin eh.
Hindi kayo makakahabol sa
Oh.
9:45 sa Rockwell. So dapat manganap kayo ng
mukhang
midnight
malabo.
screening.
Screening.
Parang nafe-feel ko hindi kami abot doon.
But, kung sagot ni Gretchen yung
Ayun,
tickets,
siyempre
Si
magmamadali
Masi,
kami.
sagot ni Masi.
Sige.
Pero siya libre.
magano kami, magmomotor kami. Maghahabal-habal. Thank you once again, Ate Gretch, Ate Mase, and Boss Pauline. Well, on tonight's show, we've got results of the NBA's Christmas games, the aftermath of last night's crazy Christmas Classico in the PBA.
And it was a classic. We've got a preview of the ASEAN Mitsubishi Cup semis between the Philippines and Thailand. Football analyst Sedel
Uy.
Tupas joins us live.
What a surprise treat! I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Chaska Liton Calao.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.